Again, everybody, and welcome to an all-new episode of Roadtrip After Hours. I'm your host, MacDavis, along with my pal, Teddy Long. Hey, Teddy, how you doing, brother?
Yeah, you can leave out the Hall of Fame and all that. Don't worry about it.
Well, I didn't feel like throwing it in now because you gave me such hell as we were doing all this. So.
Yeah, I'll be your pal, too.
Okay. Today, we have a very special guest. Teddy and I last year had the opportunity to go to St. Louis for the St. Louis Fan Fest. And of course, it was a big St. Louis Wrestling Hall of Fame, all a part of the SICW event that was taking place that entire weekend. We had a blast. And Teddy, one of the names I don't even think I got a chance to introduce you to her last year because we got so busy. We weren't sure what we were doing. And Barbara, who I'm about to introduce here, will understand because we actually laughed about this while we were there. Anyhow, our guest today is none other than the wife of the late Bruiser Brody. Ladies and gentlemen, Barbara Goodish. Hey, Barbara.
Hey there, Mac. Hey there, Teddy. So nice of you to have me on. And yes, I didn't even see Matt. We passed just like this. Hello, goodbye. And yes, that is why it's such a fantastic event, because it is. There's so many people there that sometimes you take time out to meet everybody. So I'm glad to see you two before this event even starts. So I'm happy. May the 18th, St. Louis Aviator Hotel. Gosh.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. And that is it the 18th? Yeah, May 8th. Oh, the 17th, by the way, just for those who are listening here and want to be a part of the event. There's the big one-man show taking place by Mr. Bill Apter. That'll be on Friday night. So on Saturday, the 18th, is when the big fan fest takes place, where you'll get to meet everybody. And Barbara, that's where I first met you just a few years ago. We were I say a few years ago, a few years is actually, you know what I'm saying. But when I met you then, you were just the nicest, sweetest person. And it was when I first started coming back into wrestling. And you actually took time to speak to me, which I appreciate. And I always will appreciate that you did that with me. Your husband, Frank Goodish, Bruiser Brody, for all the wrestling fans, there was a moment in time with him that I remember, and that's when he got in the cage with Lex Luger. Now, Lex eventually crawled right back out of that cage. He did not want to stay in. Now, he thought maybe, Frank was getting a little bit cranky and he just wasn't having a good time. Did he come home and talk to you at all about that match and say what happened?
Well, Frank used this as a business. Wrestling was a business to him, and he wanted to go out there and do the best that he possibly could. And if people listened to his call, they had the best matches they would. But if somebody that is green that wants to take over, well, we all saw what happened.
Yes. So did he come home? Did he say something to you like, oh, you won't believe what happened in the ring tonight?
Yeah, I wanted to give him a good match and, get him into I think he was just starting the business. I don't think he'd been in there long. If I'm right,
you're
it's a
right.
long time ago. So sometimes the memory's a little faded at this age. And he said, all I did, I was going to give him some high points. I was going to make a great match because that reflects on me if it's a good match. But of course, he went in there and I guess Lex wanted to kind of take over, whatever. Well, as you might know, if you knew Frank at all, that was not the case. Yeah. So I think he just stopped. And I think finally, didn't Lex crawl out of the ring or something?
He
Or
did.
crawl out of the
Yeah,
cage?
he got out of there. He was like, I'm just not sure what's happening here. And I figured
Yeah,
Frank was probably having a cranky time with somebody in the ring. And it was
yeah.
comical though at the time because it sold who Bruiser Brody was. For those of you who have never seen Bruiser Brody match or seen some of his work, especially in Japan, walking around swinging metal chains and fans scattering. There was only a handful of men who could pull that off. And that was, to me, somebody who will actually be there at this fan fest, which was, oh God, I'm forgetting his name now. Cowboy Bob Orton. No,
Not
no.
Bob, not Stan.
Stan Hansen. That's who I'm thinking. Stan's the one that
Yeah,
used to,
Stan.
he was crazy
Hilarious.
as hell too. And
Yeah, both
these
of them.
guys legitimately made you believe what you were seeing.
I know. And you know what? I used to tell him because he would come home with tapes from Japan and look at them and he'd be saying, oh, I could have done better. And, he would critique himself.
Yes.
And I said to him at one time, I saw him going out there with the chain, on the TV. I said, aren't you scared about hitting somebody? I mean, he gave me that look that he gives the people. He said, Barbara, how tall am I? How tall is my arm? You think I have any chance of hitting anybody? No.
I tell you what, though, he made you believe. I mean, because and again, Abby Abdullah, who I think Abby's going to be there this year too, right?
Yes.
So, I mean, Abby is another one of those guys, just like your husband, who was able to terrify the fans because they believed what was happening.
Crazy, crazy, crazy. I know. And I cannot believe, this is going to be in July. This is the 36th year that he has been gone. And I cannot believe when I go to these fan fests and I love to meet the fans and everything and spend time with them. And I ask them their age a lot of times and they weren't even born. They were so much younger. They range from 20 years old upwards to 30 years old. Well, Frank has been gone 36 years. 35 now, 36, this year. And it's like, and I asked him, well, how? He said, well, on YouTube, he was such a good wrestler. And I just, picked him up. And especially at one, I think it was the gathering I was at. And I've met this little tiny Trey Mitchell, I think his name was. And he was just small. Now he's taller than me. And he always come up and he's been watching, Frank since he was just a child. So it kind of, it's really an honor because it's unbelievable. He always said, I just want to go out there and give them the best match of their life so they remember. Well, I guess that's what he accomplished. And I wish I could tell him, you did accomplish everything you set out to do. It's a shame you still weren't here, though.
When he came home off the road, was he a completely different guy than what he was in the ring? Was he just the loving dad? And
no, I would drop him off at the airport the days before, when you could go to the airport. I'd drop him off at the airport. He would be dad and husband, give us a kiss, goodbye, get out of the car. I could see him change. As soon as he went through those doors, I could see him change into the character, Bruiser Brody.
Well, he had to back then, did he not, Barbara? Because it was kayfabe.
Yeah, it was kayfabe back then. And he became a whole different person. Even though I've had people in these children that have grown up now into adults, they will say that they saw him at the airport and they were so scared because a lot of times he'd wear his hair out, and the way he marches through the airport. I mean, being as tall, he was quite fearsome looking. And he said, I was so scared of him, I'd get behind my parents. And you know what sometimes he did? He would go over, get down and talk to these children. And they have come up to me and said, and it always made me believe that you can't judge a book by its cover because, because he was this fearsome looking gentleman that spoke to them in a very soft, nice voice. So, and to get back, how we change, we get distracted. When he came back home, it was the same thing. He'd come through the airport doors, he would drop Bruiser Brody, and he became Frank Goodish.
That's cool. That's cool. Teddy, anything you want to pop in here with before we have to close?
No, I'm just enjoying listening to the stories. Out of my almost 40-some years in wrestling, I never met your husband. I never met Bruiser Brody. The only thing I just heard stories about him, and the only time I really felt like I really knew him is when Tony Atlas sat down and told me the story about the Puerto Rico stuff. So, but what I can say is that I did watch him. I saw a lot of his work, and he was a tough competitor. He didn't play. And I think some of his greater matches was with him and Abdullah the Butcher. You can't top that.
No.
You can't top that. I mean, him and Abby just tore the place down anytime that they got into it. So I'm just happy to have met you and to listen to the stories. And God bless you and Happy New Year to you and the family.
Thank you. And you know what he said about those things with Abdullah? He said, red makes green.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
I tell Mac that all the time. Thank you for enforcing that. Thank you.
Well, Barbara, thank you so much. I look forward to seeing you. And Teddy, like I say, Teddy and I will be there. We'll see you in the St. Louis. That's on May 17th and May 18th. Is that
18th.
Correct? Yeah, May 17th and 18th with the Bill After show on Friday night, and the 18th is the Fan Fest, and it's going to be a blast. There's a lot of people there. I want to mention some of the names other than what we're talking about right now. But Sergeant Slaughter will be there. Abdullah. Let's see. We got Tim Storm's going to be there. Haku. Oh man, Godfather is going to be there. The Rock and Roll Express. Teddy's going to be there. So we know it's going to be a party. So everybody.
Stan Hansen, Greg Garnet is going to be there. I mean, there's a lot. There are so many different things. And don't forget, you have to mention they have the wrestling show on the Saturday night, and it's the Bruiser Brody Memorial Cup, which they have. Herb Simmons has had this show for, I can't remember, over a decade, to remember Frank. And they have a cup. They have a match every year, the Bruiser Brody Memorial Cup. So that is something that the fans enjoy too.
Yes, and we're looking forward to that. That's where really the Hall of Fame kind of takes place just before
Hall of Fame.
That takes place, and it's a lot of fun. I like the environment of how they do their Hall of Fame there. So, Barbara, thank you so much. By the way, if you want to get tickets, go to sicw.org. That's sicw.org. Get those tickets early. I promise you there is a ton of people. Go to the website, look and see. There, I'm looking at the page, and I'm just giving you an idea what I'm looking at on my phone.
Woo!
I don't know if you can see it, but there are a ton of people on this thing. It's probably too bright.
I know.
I can't even go through the list. So
it's just so many. But
yes, there are.
Go to the SICW website, and you'll see the list of everybody. You'll see that picture that you have, and you'll just see how many people are actually going to be there. And I'll be there, and come up and say hi to me. I always enjoy meeting everybody.
Yes.
So Aviator Hotel, 17th and 18th of May, St. Louis. You got to go. This is going to be the best fan fest of the year.
Hey, it's going to be even better because that's my birthday weekend.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'll have
some
fun.
I'll have to get down and sit with you for a couple of minutes.
Yeah, we'll have to do that, especially maybe on Friday night before Bill's show.
He don't have to have a birthday to have a sip. Okay, it doesn't have to be his birthday.
Okay, that's a date.
Barbara, thank you so much, and we look forward to seeing you.
Thank you.
It's back, May 17th and 18th, SICW Fan Fest 2. Tickets available at SICW.org. Meet the stars of professional wrestling, up close and personal. Wendy Richter, Tito Santana, Steve Kern, the Mouth of the South, Jimmy Hart, Haku, Coco Beware, Cowboy Bob Orton Jr., Leilani Kai, Tim Storm, Sal Renaro, Brian Blair, Tommy Rich, Abdullah the Butcher, the Boogie Woogie Man, Manny Fernandez, Godfather, Rock and Roll Express, Jim Brunzell, Teddy Long, and MacDavis, Bill After, and many more. Don't miss the SICW Fan Fest and St. Louis Wrestling Hall of Fame. It all starts with the Bill After one-man show on Friday and the Fan Fest and Hall of Fame on Saturday. Be there!
Hello again, everybody, and welcome back to Road Trip After Hours. I'm your host.
We didn't go nowhere.
Well, we had to break away to show the commercial for SICW's Fan Fest, Teddy.
Well, we still didn't go nowhere.
Well, I take a trip every time I get up in the morning. You just never know.
Oh, okay. So that's
yeah,
the journey that you're talking about.
Yeah, I'm having a cup of water right now. I'm quite happy. Hey guys,
yeah, sure. Make us all believe that's water.
One of the things that I'm looking forward to today is our discussion with somebody that I got a chance to meet and work with about 2 years ago. And of course, you know him both as a wrestler and probably more so as an official in WWE. His name is a legendary name from the Armstrong family, Scott Armstrong. Hey, Scott.
Hey, what's going on, Mac?
Not much, brother. How you doing?
Oh, man. I'm just glad I woke up this morning.
Hey, let me ask you, weather-wise, I know that we had a lot of bad weather here in Georgia yesterday and last night. How was it for you in Florida? Because I kept thinking that was kind of in your area, wasn't it?
It was, and we had a lot of a real bad storm, but it only lasted for about 2 or 3 hours and then moved on down the coast. I think Panama City got it worse. Panama City, as the crow flies, is about hour and a half from here, hour and 45 minutes, and they got it worse.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of pictures of the damage.
Yeah, it's brutal. I mean, but here at my house, we just got a lot of wind and a lot of rain. But it was early in the morning. It went from like 4 a.m. to 7 a.m. and then it just cleared out. So very blessed.
Yes, you are.
Let me ask you something, Scott. Out of curiosity, I know that you've done both the wrestling thing and you've done the reffing thing. What was more enjoyable for you? I mean, was it more fun to be a wrestler, or did you enjoy it more to be an official?
So, in your early 20s, I started wrestling when I was 22. And in your 20s, you know the deal. You're bulletproof.
Oh, yeah.
No, you can't be hurt. Everything is balls to the wall. And that's so I really enjoyed it through that time of my life. And I wrestled for about 20 years before I ever started refereeing. And but as far as having fun and just enjoying being in the ring, refereeing was the funnest, without a doubt. Now, having 20 years experience as a wrestler, I'm sure made me feel more comfortable in the ring.
Yeah.
But as a referee, you get to work with everybody. If you're a wrestler, you kind of just work with one person and blah, blah, blah. But as a referee, you may have 3 or 4 matches that night. So you get to work with a bunch of different people and a lot of different scenarios in the ring. And it's funny because, today's wrestling fan, they only know me as a referee. They don't know that I had a 20+ year career as a wrestler because, I hadn't gone to WWE. And
I actually saw a video of you today, just by chance. I'm watching a video that popped up, and it was about Jerry Lawler, and I can't remember who the opponent was that he was arguing with, and he went out to threaten to beat up his car and destroy it. And you were actually in the ring. You were one of the you were tagging with your brother in the ring with 2 other jobbers that were in there, I guess. And Jerry gets out in the ring and starts raising the hell. Do you remember any of that early years like that?
Was that Memphis? I guess it was
Memphis.
Yeah. That was mid '80s. Yeah, my brother Steve, right? I think that's my tag partner at the time.
It was.
And hey, look, the early days were the funnest days, no doubt about it. But at the same time, like I said, I was in my 20s. So if I made $50 and had a great time and felt like I had a good match, it was the best day ever.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
It's $50. $50. Who are you working for?
Right.
I never seen $50.
That's funny, Teddy. The other day, somebody asked me, said, "Hey, when you started, what kind of money was it?" And I said, "We had a $40 guarantee." And they said, "Well, $40? And I said, "Yeah." And they said, "Well, where all y'all run?" And I said, "Well, it was a $65 guarantee if we ran Birmingham." Birmingham was 4 hours from here. And I said, and then we did Montgomery, and they said, what'd you get in Montgomery? I said, $40. So then came the question, wait a minute. Now Montgomery's about 2 hours and 45 minutes from my house. So if I taped 2 $20 bills on the side of the arena, would you drive there and get it and drive back? And I said, well, heck no. And they said, but if you would take long enough to wrestle and risk possible injury, and would you do it then? And I said, 100 times in a row.
And only a few people understand that. You have to love it to understand that.
Yes.
And the other thing Scott was mentioning earlier too, I was listening to him. He was talking about when he was refereeing, he had the chance to do it later on in the business. Well, that's how I started. But what he reminded me of is when you're refereeing, you work with everybody. And at that time, I didn't have no help. I had to do 16 matches all by myself. WCW Saturday night, and then I taped that WCW Saturday morning or whatever. So all of those matches I had to do by myself, but I learned. That's how I learned the business. I learned from that, from working with everybody. I learned everybody's style. You know what I mean? And by doing that, Scott will tell you, you're able to help the guys out. Because I'll never forget one time I was in there with Spike Dudley and somebody, and Spike went blank, just forgot what to do. And the guy was on the outside by the apron, and I just looked at him. I said, baseball slide. Okay, and he went right and hit it, and it worked perfectly. And they thanked me like I had the match. I didn't have it, but they thanked me for being able to help them out to think. And that's what everybody needs to be on the same page. Referee and whoever he's working with, everybody needs to be their mind on the same thing.
Amen. I'm with you, Teddy. You're so right.
Scott, when you were in the ring as the ref, towards the end, how much direction were you giving in the ring? I'm guessing what I'm asking is, it seems like earlier, like when Teddy was around, Teddy would help with the match when he was needed. But now it seems like maybe that ref or the official may have a little bit more of a role of telling you how that match plays out. Does it?
It does for sure. It's funny, when I first I didn't get hired until I was 45 years old by WWE. And when I did get hired, John Laurinaitis was at the helm, and he literally said, "Hey, we didn't hire you to be the pretty face in the ring." And because literally at 45, they pull you from in front of the camera.
They wouldn't have hired you for the pretty face anyhow, Scott.
Right. And he said, we hired you. Go ahead, Teddy. What'd you say?
Yeah, but what did that have to do with anything?
Well, he was letting me know he wanted
I know what he was letting you know.
he was telling me, "Hey, we want you to help these guys because there's a lot of really young rookies that we're putting in front of the camera that don't have their feet on the ground yet. And you've been doing this 20 years, so we want you to help them." And, at first you don't feel comfortable doing that because you don't know the crew.
Yeah.
And it's like you said, Teddy, once you work with them over and over and over, and then start giving the small bits of advice, and they realize, oh, he cares about the match. He doesn't care about himself. Because that's what they're all looking at is, oh, he's just calling that so he thinks he can look good. Well, as a referee, that's not the way it is, or at least not the way me and Teddy started. I know that for a fact. So we would, you help them, and then once they see you help them, well, then they want your help a lot.
Yes.
And
it's called trust.
Amen. And you don't see it as much today as you did back then, and that's a shame.
Nobody cares now. Nobody cares, brother. It's unreal.
It seems to be what once was a team. It seems to be more of a single. I don't know.
Me. No, I agree with that. I agree with that.
Yes.
Is every man for himself?
It is. Yes.
Yeah, and it used to be, you couldn't have a great baby face if you didn't have a great heel. It takes two people to make both work. And that's the problem I have with today's wrestling, really. A lot of it is more of just watch what fancy moves we can do, and without really telling any stories, which is extremely frustrating for me. I like a story to my wrestling. I want to have an emotional connection with the two people in that ring, and I want to see one get his ass kicked and the other one to prevail.
Yeah, amen.
Just that simple.
Amen.
Look, the name of the show is Road Trip After Hours. So, Scott, let me ask you, road trip wise, any great road trip stories you can share?
Yeah, look, it's Teddy. It's y'all's show, so I have to include Teddy in one of my things. So, the late Mickey J, he was a great referee, and he was with WCW and then WWE. And so when I got hired by WWE, Mickey said, "Hey, look, travel with me. I'll show you the ropes and get you broke in." And I said, "Okay, great." So I did it for about 6 months. And then Teddy and Nick Patrick were traveling together all the time. And so Teddy and Nick both came to me and said, "Hey, look, we know you're saving all this money traveling with Mickey, and me and Mickey were splitting a room and everything. And Teddy was the one that I vividly remember. He said, ride with us and just give us a chance to talk to you about this, and it will help you in this business. So I told Mickey, I said, hey, look, I'm going to ride with Teddy and Nick and on this trip. So we get into the trip, and Teddy starts explaining, number one, you got to pay yourself first. So you're making good money with WWE. You have to, what he meant by that was you get your own hotel room. Teddy said, don't you splitting hotel rooms and all that stuff. He said, man, that's not peace of mind. He said, pay the money. You're going to pay the tax man or you're going to pay yourself. And he said, by getting your own room, you're going to pay a little bit more for that room, but it's going to come off of your income tax at the end of the year. And you have peace of mind. You're killing yourself on the road. You can lay in your own bed. You're just relaxed. And that starting that day, that's no kidding. Starting that day, I got a room by myself every week. Every show, I would get my own room, and I started doing exactly. I went to my tax guy and said, "Hey, here's what I'm going to do." And and if honestly, Teddy, if you hadn't have told me that, I'd still been nickel and diming and trying to get the hot spot with those hotels.
And I was doing the same exact thing. Somebody told me. Okay, and that's how I learned. So why wouldn't I share that with you? Because once I found that out, Scott, it's peace of mind. Yes. I'm waking up in my own room. I ain't got nobody. I ain't got to turn over and look, and I might turn over and look at a big cock or something that's, you know what I'm saying? So I can't take that kind of shit. Okay, so that's why I get my own room.
Yeah, it literally. I can remember coming home after the first trip, and my wife saying, and me thinking, "Oh shit, I'm gonna walk in and she's gonna hit the roof. How much all the hotels were and all that." And what she said was, "Wow, you just seem so relaxed." And I thought, oh man, that's the goal, right?
I've got to be, at the end of the day, I got to have a place where I can at least scratch my ass without having to worry about who's in the room or who's looking at me while I do it. You got to have some piece of, your own environment at some point. I don't know how you don't go nuts if you don't, to be honest.
Yeah. It was definitely peace of mind. That's for sure. So that road trip I'll never forget, because it was the first time that I'd ridden with Nick and Teddy, and man, it was just eye-opening and such awesome career.
And the other thing too, Scotty, it's hard enough smelling your own shit. How can you stand with somebody else goes to the bathroom? You can't do it.
Yeah.
Hey, Scott, let me ask you, you're doing your own podcast now today, right?
No, that's gone by the wayside.
Oh no. Oh, so what are you up to now? I know you're involved with somebody, aren't you?
Yeah, there's a group down here on the Gulf Coast. It's called Diamond Championship Wrestling, and about a year ago they came to me and said, "Hey, would you please? Do you want to be a part of one of our shows?" And I said, "Yeah, great, man. I can special referee or wave at everybody at intermission." And so that parlayed into a couple of shots over a couple of different months, and then just about 3 months ago, they said, "Hey," or 4 months ago, they said, "Hey, we want to make you, we're getting a small TV show. It's going to air on the Mobile, Alabama channel."
Oh, cool.
And they said, "We would love for you to come and do kind of what you did with WWE, just be like a producer of the show and help us with matches and all that." And I said, "Dude, I'm retired. I'm sitting at home." I said, "Yeah, I would love to." And so start doing that. And then they come to me about 2 months ago and said, "Hey, we're going to shut completely down because we are in the process of trying to lease a building in Mobile, and we want to run every other week." And I said, "Oh man, that'd be awesome." Yep. So that's what they did. And so now at the end of this, so they leased this building for 2 months, for 2 years. Now they're on the inside of it, redoing everything to make it look good for TV purposes. And then they called me a couple of weeks ago and said, "Hey man, would you be okay, or your family be okay? We'd like to call this the Bullet Bob Armstrong Memorial Arena." And I went, "Oh wow, man, yeah." I said that's very cool,
Yeah, that is.
And my dad was always, we were in Mobile every Tuesday night back in the 80s.
Yeah.
And his line was "Mobile, if you will." And so they said, "Would you want to do that?" I said, "Yeah, I'm all about it." So the 27th of this month is the ribbon cutting grand opening. And then starting the first and third Saturdays of every month, we will be in that building for their shows. Well, then, so we had a big meeting in Mobile with the TV and all that stuff. And I went over there, and then they said, it was asked, "Hey, who they also have a wrestling school." And so they said, "Who's your head trainer?" And they said, "Well, we use different guys here and there." And somebody said, "Oh, so Scott isn't the head trainer?" And that right there sparked a conversation afterwards, and they literally did made me the offer I couldn't refuse, and said, now I'm the head trainer of their training. And so it's funny, Matt, because when you started talking about No Story and guys flying all over the place, of all the training sessions we've had so far, we haven't done one thing flying off of ropes.
Great.
We've hit the ropes, but we haven't done anything. Everything's on the mat. And, young guys, hey, man, they want to go. And I say the same thing every time. Guys, this is, what does it say on the marquee? Wrestling. I said, you learn that first, and all the flips, you can do the flips later. But right now, learn wrestling.
Yes,
exactly.
Absolutely.
I said, the last thing you want is somebody to come down here and go, "Hey, I want to see what these guys are doing." I said, "And you guys are doing all these flips everywhere, but you don't have any footwork and you don't know how to apply holds." I said, "Man, we're starting."
You got to learn that to be able to grab the fans, because later on you're going to have to focus on listening and watching those fans to help tell your story. So I hate that we're running out of time and we argue.
Before we do run out of time, Scott, I want you to give us an address there and let us know if for the people around Mobile are interested in joining the wrestling school there, or want to be trained right by you. Can you give us an address and how they can get in touch with you guys?
Well, the horrible thing is I don't have it with me right now, Teddy. Can I
send it to me and I'll throw it on the screen.
Okay, that'd be awesome. Yeah. That'd be awesome. And Teddy, the guy already, when he knew I was doing you and Max podcast today, first thing he says, "Hey, see if Teddy would be interested in coming down here like on a first or a third Saturday." And I said, "Well, I'll ask him." So the invite's out there, Teddy. I told him, I said, "I'm going to let y'all talk business, because with these guys, I just help them with the actual wrestling."
Well, before you, Scotty, when we get done here, before you hang up from us, I'll give you a number here so he can give me a call.
Okay, sounds good.
Before I let you go, I got to know, we all work together. This has been a couple of years or a year now. It's been over a year, I believe, since October or something like that. We worked for a company together. We were actually having fun building this company, but Teddy and I kind of got a whiff that maybe it was time we needed to go somewhere else, and we did. You stuck around for a while. What happened, Scott? Because it was a great start of a company if they had just gotten it together.
So, when it implodes, it implodes. And there was a lot of money going out and a lot of hands wanting to take the money, but it was the wrong people getting the money. You know what I mean? Look, this is wrestling. Once you stop listening to the people that have actually been there and done that, and start listening to people that just don't know our industry, you're listening to the wrong people. And so once management starts listening to the wrong people, hey man, your money's going to disappear. And that's exactly what happened. One day it was just a phone call of, "Hey, we don't have any more money." And and I said, "Man,
what they did when I was in there with them, finally got it turned around. The last show that I did with them was in Thomaston, Georgia. The building sold out. Now we done got it turned around, ready to go. This guy here takes the money and gives, I ain't calling no name, but he gives some group $17,000. I don't understand for what. and they wouldn't even let him put his own banner on the ring. They put that banner around the ring.
Oh my gosh. Well, hey.
You know, small town independence, brother. That's
Yeah.
But it was a shame because there was an opportunity there, and there was some great talent that we had that came through there too.
True. Yeah.
And what the problem is, everybody thinks that they're Vince McMahon. Would they please get a grip? Jesus Christ.
Right. Yeah.
What is wrong with these people?
That's very true.
Yeah, they all, instead of worried about money, they want to walk around looking like this. That's all they want to do. I'm running this. I'm in charge.
All right, I'm down to 60 seconds before we actually get cut here. So let me say this real quick. Scott, your brother, Dog, he says he's a better sports entertainer than you are.
Hey, that's true. That's true. He's also a lot more full of shit than I am.
Yes, he is. That's it. I'm MacDavis. That is WWE Hall of Famer Teddy Long and Scott, of course, Armstrong from WWE. Thanks, Scott. We look forward to, and hopefully we get to talk to you again, brother.
Hope so.
Oh, you didn't know?
We'll see you next week.